Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Wyatt from Mrs. Wyatt's Wise Owl Teacher Creations, and today's video is on the silent E syllable. So the reason that it's important for students to learn the silent E syllable is because it's going to improve their reading and their spelling skills. Now this video is going to focus on reading one syllable words with the silent E pattern, but in an upcoming video, we're going to talk about how you can take those syllable types, including the silent E syllable, and teach children syllabication strategies to help them be able to read multisyllabic words. Well, let's get started for today's video. So a silent E syllable is one of the 7 syllable types. You have closed syllables, open syllables, the silent E syllable, vowel teams, diphthongs, R-control vowels, and the consonant LE. Students' understanding of a syllable type will help them know if the vowel is going to be long or short in a word. And it can also be the schwa vowel sound, and that's going to be in another upcoming video. So characteristics of a silent E syllable. You're going to have a vowel consonant E pattern. So you have that VCE pattern. There's only going to be one consonant between the two vowels. The first vowel is typically long, and that final E is going to be silent. So here are some examples. The dash is supposed to represent any consonant. So you have A consonant E consonant E, I consonant E, O consonant E, and then the U consonant E pattern. And so what I teach my students is that E is silent. It skips over one consonant to get to the vowel, and it makes that first vowel long or say its name. So this would say A, E, I, O, and U. So activities to teach the silent E pattern. The first activity that you want to do is a phonemic awareness activity. There are multiple activities that you can do to help students with phonemic awareness. This one is a picture sort. So you want students to be able to hear and distinguish between the short and the long vowel sounds. So for this sort, it's for short O and long O. And it's important that if students don't know the name of the picture that you tell them, because we're looking at what you're determining is can they differentiate between those two sounds. You can do this as a whole class activity, or you could do it in small group. And then once you know that students know the names of the pictures and understand the directions, it could also be an independent practice activity as well. So students would cut these cards out, and then they would put their headers. So you have the short O, which is going to say ah, and then you have that long O, which is going to have the vowel consonant E pattern. So they're going to hear O, and then they're just going to say the name of the picture and sort it. Mop, and they may have to stretch those sounds out. Op. I'm hearing that ah, so it's a short O. Robe. Obe. I'm hearing that long O sound. And then you would just continue through. Pop. They would stretch those sounds out. Op. And know that that is a short O sound. And then one more. We have pole. P-ole. That's that long O pattern. Once you know that students are able to distinguish between the short and the long vowel sounds, then you can move to other activities to help them be able to read and spell. So knowledge between closed syllables and silent E syllables. So you have a closed syllable, you're going to have a vowel consonant pattern. In a silent E syllable, you're going to have that vowel consonant E. So you have that VC pattern, and the line is here is because in a closed syllable, it's going to end, you're going to have a vowel with at least one consonant. It could end with more consonants, and that vowel is typically going to be short. There are some exceptions, but typically that vowel is going to be short and say its sound. And then in a silent E syllable, you're going to have that vowel consonant E pattern. So in a closed syllable, you have one vowel and at least one consonant that is after the vowel. And in a silent E syllable, there's two vowels in that syllable, but there's only one consonant that's coming in between those two vowels. And that it's going to end in that silent E. So the vowel will say its short vowel sound in a closed syllable, and it's going to be long, or say the long vowel name in a silent E syllable. And of course, that final E is silent. So once they understand the characteristics of a closed syllable and a silent E syllable, then we're going to move into some other activities to help support those reading and writing skills. So for this one, they're reading. So you will use the gradual release approach, and you're going to model first and then move into guided practice. And then as you see that your students are ready, they can move to independent practice. But first you're going to model, so you're going to label your vowels. So you have your A and your E, so that's your vowel, and then you have that consonant in between. So you have a vowel, consonant, E pattern. So we know that this is a silent E pattern. So that E is going to jump over that one consonant and make this vowel say its name. So if I tap my sounds, B-A-K, that word is bake. Let's look at the next one. So I'm going to label my pattern, vowel, consonant, E. So that E is going to jump over that one consonant. It's going to make this vowel say its sound, and it's going to say B-I-K. Bike. So now we're going to read words. So we're going to do a word sort where we are looking at closed syllables and silent E syllables. So the only thing that is changing these words is that silent E. And students with this sort are going to be able to recognize that when you add that silent E to a closed syllable word, it's going to change the vowel sound, and it's going to completely change the word. So let's look at some examples. So for closed syllables, we have the word mad. And you would discuss, because you have that vowel consonant pattern, that's why this says ah. However, when you come over here and you have that vowel consonant E pattern, that E is making this first vowel say its name. So it's not going to say ah, it will say A, and it's going to change the word. Aid. Made. The same with not. You would have a conversation that you have a vowel consonant pattern that makes this word a closed syllable. So that vowel is going to say ah, ought, not. However, when it's a silent E syllable, you have a vowel consonant E pattern. That E is silent, and that first vowel, or this O, is going to say its name. It's going to say O, oat, note. And then you have bit and bite and cub and cube. And lots of practice with this, doing a word sort. You could do a word sort where you give students the words and they have to sort them and read them. Or you could do a spelling word sort where you call the words out and students have to spell the words under the correct category. It's going to help students to begin to recognize the different syllable types and be able to flex those vowel sounds going from short to long, and that is going to improve their reading and spelling skills. Another activity that you can use with Silent E is the phoneme graphing mapping strategy. This is where they tap it, map it, and graph it. So to do this activity, students would first tap out the sound. So this word is case. So it would be, they would put an X, or you could use a chip for each sound. So k, a, s, case. And then they're going to map it, so they're going to write those letters that spell these sounds. So k, a, s. So C, A, S. And then you're going to have that conversation about, because this says A, they know they need the silent E there. Now I have if you find this useful, I have a resource in my TPT store, and I will link it in the description below, where you can get the sorts and these phoneme grapheme mapping activities. I'll link it in the description box below. And then the last activity is word chains. Now, word chains are good for practicing decoding and encoding skills. So it's good for reading and spelling skills. So here is an example of one that you could use with silent E. So on this side, it's what the teacher says, and then on this side, this is what the student's going to do to manipulate those sounds to either spell or read the new word. So to start with, the teacher would say, spell fame. And then the students are going to tap those sounds out and spell the word. Aim. Fame. And in a word chain, it's important to point out that only one sound is going to change as you go through. So they're only manipulating one sound, and then they're going to read or spell the new word. So the teacher would say, change the t to d. So they would have to know to go to the and change it to a d. So it would be fade. Delete the silent E. So here they're flexing between a closed syllable and a silent E syllable. So they're going to have to use knowledge that when you take that silent E away from fade, it's going to change that long A to a short A, and it's going to be fad. Change the f to a So they've now changed the word to mad. Change the a to an A. So here they're going to have to use their knowledge once again between those closed syllables and silent E syllables. Then in order for this to say A, you're going to have to add that silent E because you have a vowel consonant E pattern, and it would change it to made. Now change the D to T. So that would change it to mate. Change the A to I. It would change it to might. And change the to s, and that would make it sight. And then the last one, add p after the s. So now your word is getting a little more complicated because you're adding that blend there, and it would be spite. Stay tuned. I plan on doing another video on why word chains are important and just giving a little more detail. So be sure to subscribe to my channel, and that way you'll be notified when I upload that video. So what are your next instructional steps once you have taught the silent E pattern? You're going to introduce syllabication strategies to teach students to read and spell multisyllabic words. So they're going to take their knowledge of closed syllables and open syllables and the silent E syllable, and with syllabication strategies, they're going to be able to read and spell words with more than one syllable. So in the next video that I will post, it's going to be teaching students to read multisyllabic words with closed, open, and that silent E syllable. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're interested in any of the activities that I shared, there is a link to this resource from my TPT store in the description box below. And please post any questions and comments about the video in the comment section below. And please go ahead and subscribe and like this video.